Hello and welcome to the first episode of To Those Who Don't Understand. My name is Optimal, and this might be a series surrounding minor conflict between those who love specific games and those who don't understand why. This episode, I'll be discussing why we love Star Citizen. This more than likely won't be a very in-depth video. I like to see myself as a middle ground gamer. I don't have extreme knowledge or skills surrounding this game, more of a general understanding, but more knowledge and experience on the topic than someone who might have just heard of the game. I also like to include, I'm not speaking for everyone when I make specific comments. With that said, let's jump right into it. Because this is my first video, this probably won't be as clear as I would hope it to be, and I may revisit the topic again later. To make this as clear as I can, I'll try to split this into two sides, why we love it and why we don't. I think it would make sense to start with a general idea of what Star Citizen actually is. From my understanding, Star Citizen is an enormous sci-fi themed first-person massive multiplayer online game, or MMO for short. The year in which the game takes place is around 2949, and time progresses at the same rate as today, so a 1-to-1 ratio just 930 years in the future. The campaign, however, is set in 2945, but we're not focusing on that in this video. I'll put a link in the description to videos that I think best discuss the campaign or what is currently known about it. Now back to the topic at hand. The MMO, as of right now, starts you off in the Stanton system on Port Olisar, which, if you have any common knowledge at all, it's basically the same as a port on Earth, just in space, with spaceships. Which leads me to make my first point on why we love this game. I left a bit of a hint in that last bit when I said you start off in the Stanton system, and what us players have come to know from the developers themselves is that they plan on adding over 100 different systems and even more. That might not seem like a big deal to some, but let me explain even further. Everything in this game is to a scale of 1-to-1 with the real world. So if you're currently watching this with a mug of coffee next to you, or a pencil, or really any object, look at it. Yes, I'm being serious, and no, you won't miss anything on the screen. Take into account its size and shape. Now going back to the game, if my character were to pick up an object, it would be on the same scale as reality. Now you might be thinking, great, he can pick up a cup, I still don't see the full picture, and that's perfectly fine. But that is just on the small end of the spectrum. Planets too are all to scale. Although they're not the same size as Earth, they still have a ratio of 1 kilometer to 1 kilometer. For example, Hurston is one of the planets in this system that can be fully explored, although I wouldn't spend my time exploring it because its size in comparison to Earth is a 1-to-6 ratio, which is still pretty big. It can take hours to fly around the planet, even in the fastest ship available. Venturing further onto the topic of distance and time, Robert Space Industries doesn't want to butcher you when it comes to getting from place to place. Sure, you might have to spend some time actually traveling from one city to another, or even one system to another, but that's why jump drives are available. Going from one of Stanton's planets, let's say Crusader, to one of Crusader's moons would take months, if not years, and yes, in real time. Thanks to jump drive capabilities, all you have to do is start an orbit around Crusader and jump to one of Crusader's moons, which takes mere seconds. Now, what animation you're seeing right now isn't actually a loading screen. It's my character, in the ship, actually traveling the distance between the 2 points. In other cases, distances can be much greater. The distance between Crusader and ArcCorp, another planet in the system, is far greater than going from the planet to its moons. Therefore, it'll take longer travel time to get there. Different sized ships have different sized jump drives, and the larger the drive, the shorter the time. As someone who really appreciates the scale and attention to detail in a virtual world, this is a pretty big thing as far as video games go, and why I consider it an absolute win above other games. Now you might start catching on, and you probably are saying to yourself, that's great, but what about the ships? Which ties together 2 points. Ships in this game come in many different styles and sizes. Each one is closely modeled to fit the playstyle of those who play the game. Whether you want to do your own exploring, start your own cargo company, or command your own battleship, there's a ship for you. That being said, as of right now, you have to spend real money, but more on that later. Each ship has an incredible amount of detail, and depending on the ship you choose, there are many interactive components. Some ships have turrets, others have engineering stations, and much more. Piloting a ship is fairly simple. When compared to other games that are more simulations than anything, their focus was to allow new players to get the hang of flying fairly easily while keeping it as close to an accurate simulation as possible. In other words, it's a dumbed-down version of DCS World, which is a flight simulator. There are fewer switches to flip and controls to manage, but you really feel like you're piloting a spaceship, and let me tell you, it feels pretty awesome. Depending on the playstyle, skill is pretty wide-ranged. Fighter pilots need an increase in piloting skill to compete in battle, whereas large cargo ships need a pilot who can safely get from one destination to the other. Now onto the MM and MMO. It's a massive multiplayer online game because of the number of players that are involved. If you're someone who likes to mind their own business and do their own thing, I'm not too sure this is the perfect game for you. In my personal experience, playing with others makes the game far more enjoyable in its downtime. Traveling those long distances seem less lonely and more shenanigans are likely to occur. More players allow for more playstyles to combine and work together smoothly. For example, transporting cargo is a great way to make in-game credits, although sometimes security is required to assure you make a profit. Maybe you want to get into a battleship? The Hammerhead, for instance, is a fantastic battlecruiser, but can feel quite lonely if it's just you. It doesn't have 6 turrets or bridge positions for one player to run alone. Strength comes in numbers, so I suggest to start making friends. That's enough about what is loved about this game. Let's move on to some of the downsides. While much of this game to me seems fantastic, it comes with a price. Every game to a decent scale comes with a price. For a mission into this universe alone, you need to pay $45 for a starter ship. Both the Aurora and Mustang are great ships if you want to just dip your toe in and get a little feel for the game. For those of you who really want to go big, you might just be ecstatic to know about the sheer size of ships, but like everything else, it comes with a cost. The bigger the ship, the more expensive it's likely to be. Ships such as the Hammerhead, like shown before, comes at a cost of around $725. Now that might destroy your passion, but keep in mind, this ship is for a crew of 9 players, so if you and 9 friends want to split the cost, it really comes down to $80 apiece. Now that might still seem like a bit much to drop on a bunch of pixels, but don't worry. If you're willing enough, you and a few players can band together to grind for in-game currency. While right now, in-game credits can't fully buy the ship, you'll eventually be able to do so. But let me be clear, it won't come quickly. I have a small mining ship that costs me about $155, and over time I can make money and eventually buy a new ship. It just takes time. Now if you really want to get into the game, but you don't want to spend a whole lot of money, there are 2 really good paths to take. First, you go for the small starter ships like the Aurora and Mustang that I showed before and join a group to have fun and make money. Keep in mind, don't join just to make money, join a group to make the game even more enjoyable. Second, if you want to do your own thing from time to time, my recommendation is to buy Cutlass. They range anywhere from $100 to $150, but make an excellent all-around starter ship. That being said, I do highly encourage you still join a group of players or friends to make the experience all the more exciting. Who knows, you might get lucky and end up working on a battlecruiser or cargo ship for money as well. Anything you think you would enjoy, you more than likely can end up doing. To those of you who are still hesitant, I know where you're coming from. I too think spending such amounts of money on a bunch of pixels can be ridiculous. That doesn't mean I hate the game. I myself wouldn't spend that much yet, but for now, I'm content with what I have access to and the adventures I've gone on. Everyone has a hobby, everyone spends different amounts on it. This game to some people is their all-time hobby, so they'll spend as much as they like. Although I respect your views, try not to criticize people and their hobbies, and instead just accept it. On another note, this game isn't actually done. It's still in its alpha stages. Many people are so used to buying games that are finished, they want the full experience right away. This game isn't like your average shoot-'em-up title, it's on a much larger scale than that. There's so much work that needs to be done, for which, from my perspective, it's absolutely okay. This isn't a small game, it's something that's never been done before, so keep that in mind. For those of you fans who have read the book or seen the movie Ready Player One, this is a big step toward creating an experience much like it, and to me, that's really exciting. I do understand traveling in the game can be boring. Trust me, I've been there. I too get bored and annoyed with the amount of time it takes to get something done. It really can reduce the enjoyment and excitement, regardless if you're playing with friends or not. Maybe you're frustrated how the game runs. You are walking and suddenly died only to spawn all the way across the system. I've also experienced that. It's frustrating, I know. But let me remind you, it's a big project. A lot of bugs come with games. A lot of alpha stage games have bugs. That's why there's an alpha stage. Maybe you've read the Forbes article that was recently published and are well aware that they've raised over $300 million. You're concerned that they might not finish the game and just run off with the money, and you very well could be right. But with what information I've come across, it really seems to me that the people making this game really do care about it. They all seem passionate and excited about what this eventually can be. I'll say it again, it's a massive project. It takes a lot of time. GTA 5 was in development for 5 years and they're still adding more today. But that was just for some relatively small map and compared to this game. Star Citizen started back around 2012 as just a Kickstarter. It's been 7 years and in that time they've done a hell of a lot of work. They've even had to develop new technology and software in order to include very specific features. The campaign is set to release in 2020 and much more on the rest of the game will continue to follow. Still don't understand? That's fine. There are other points I could add, but I didn't want to ramble on. Maybe this game isn't for you. Everyone has their own interests, and that's okay. I'm just simply defending a large project from an outlash that comes from those who don't see the big picture. Maybe they do, and I'm too much of a loyal player to back down. So be it. Maybe you set this aside for later down the road and come back when more is developed, or the game has been finished. Get another opinion then. I definitely don't disagree with what people are saying. I hear you. I enjoy this game and I'll continue to play it. That's pretty much all I have to say. If you've made it this far, I congratulate you. A lot has been said and there's much more to cover, but for now I'll leave it be. Again, this is my first video of this type, so there's likely to be a lot of flaws. This video is just another opinion floating about the internet, but maybe a few heads will turn, and that's my goal. I know I rambled on quite a lot, and it probably leaned toward one side, and I'm well aware of it. But if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more content, and please let me know what your thoughts are. I'd love to hear it. But for now, Optimal out.